Hey everybody, my name is Alex Newman. Welcome to another episode of Conversations That Matter. We have a very special guest for you today. Her name is Carminthia Moore. She's got a fascinating biography. And right now she's actually running for state house in Georgia against one of the most powerful Republicans in the House. Her name is Sharon Cooper. And she has sponsored all kinds of bizarre things. She's raised over $1 million from Big Pharma. And in 2019, shortly before the COVID pandemic, she sponsored a bill that would have allowed children, yes, children, to be vaccinated without parental consent. Just a brazen attack on parental rights. And we came across her actually as she was at the state capitol fighting against this mental health bill abomination that we just talked about very recently. We had three legislators from Georgia to explain what was wrong with that. Carminthia Moore, thank you so much for joining us today. Conservative constitutionalist, you've got an incredible biography, served as the chair of Women in Technology for a Fortune 500 company. You've done speaking to women and college students, young girls on technology. You serve as a Atlanta-based technology consultant. You've got a 2-decade career consulting for national and international companies, managing budgets upwards of $100 million. You're known, I guess, for your keen finance and budget management and process improvements, but you're ready to put all that on pause and put that experience and knowledge to use at the biggest project of your career, the well-being of the state of Georgia. Just a fascinating story, Carminthia. And I think your childhood is so interesting too. I'm reading through your biography here, and it looks like you grew up in a low-income, high-crime community in Democrat-run cities, and then you moved to an upper middle-class neighborhood, East Cobb, and saw just this incredible difference. So Carminthia, welcome to the program. Thank you for coming on, and thank you for standing up for freedom. Tell us a little bit about your experience growing up. What was it like moving from Democrat-run high-crime cities to an upper middle class? What were some of the differences that you observed?
It was eye-opening. I was a great student in high school, middle school, elementary school, so I had a great career in regards to my education, so I thought. It was a high crime. I knew more children that peers that went to jail or died from the drug epidemic that was happening in our community, the overdiagnosis of ADHD. So a lot of children, just seeing them pilled daily in order to keep them calm or controlled in classrooms, to moving to East Cobb, which is the upper middle class area in Georgia, and coming to one of the top high schools in Georgia, and realized that I had been duped. I thought I was a really bright kid and realized that I had 2 years to make up for the deficit. Not that I had, it wasn't my ability to learn, it was the things that was left unlearned. And so I couldn't blame that on anything other than the systems and the vast difference between a Title I school and the school in this area. So it was very eye-opening, and couldn't blame it on the white man, couldn't blame it because my teachers were majority Black, our principals and things of that nature. So I had to figure out what was really going on. And I looked at everyone that was running those organizations. It was all democratically run organization, these high crime areas, the shootings, the city council were Black Democrats, some white Democrats, but it was highly democratically ran. And there was a trend. So as I started to do more research at the high crime areas across the United States, and I looked at who was running their city councils, who were their DAs, who were, started looking at the numbers, I realized that there was definitely a trend that these were democratically ran cities. So.
And is that what, is that what caused you to become a Republican, a conservative Republican?
What it caused me to be was independent and more curious. So at first being a Black woman coming out as a conservative or a Democrat was not necessarily the thing to do immediately, right? So it took some time. And I tell you, when I truly came out as a conservative and had to make a decision was after Obama was elected. And I understood I had been duped. And based on what he ran on his platform, I said, okay, this is a rational Democrat. And the first thing he said was, you couldn't say the name of Jesus after the prayer, right? But he ran as a Christian, okay? He did nothing for the Black community at all, or the United States at all. So, those things started to, you have to either, put on the jersey or get off the field. I had to have that conversation with myself, that I had to either put on the jersey and get off the field. And independent was not enough. I had to declare who my allegiance would be in regards to policies, not people, but policies, and stand firm on those policies.
What are some of the policies that you're concerned about? I know Georgia's really been in the national spotlight on, obviously, the elections, some of this mental health bill that my colleague met you while fighting against. Talk to us about some of the things that are concerning to you in Georgia, and maybe a little bit about the role of the kind of Republican establishment, including your opponent in this race, in causing all that.
I think one of the biggest, being a mother, is parental rights. That is one of the biggest policies and things that they're doing. There's not a direct policy that says, oh, we're taking away your parental rights. However, when you try to vaccinate children without their parental consent, you are usurping my right as a parent to make medical decisions for my child. So things like that is alarming. The things that they are infiltrating in our school system in regards to their learning. You will not tell my Black daughter that she's any less than someone of another race. You will not. I don't teach her that, and I don't expect the school system to teach her that as well. We come from a generation where my great-grandfather was a former slave, and he amassed more land in his generation coming out of slavery than we have in 5 generations after that. So you can't tell me that America is more racist now than when W.J. Stevenson, a former slave, came out of slavery. And what he did with that was he built the first church in that community, which is still standing today, and that was in 1886. He built the first school. So I will not allow a teacher or school system to try to tell my daughter that she is more suppressed now than my great-great-grandfather was in the 1800s. So those policies that slip in the dark of night, kind of like this medical bill that just came through, these are alarming policies that we cannot sleep on. We have to pay attention. We have to remember that we have state rights, and the federal government cannot get the socialist society that they want unless they do it state by state. And so they're infiltrating our local government to get these things rolled out to us, because we truly have the power and the authority to push back on their agenda. But if we have lawmakers that are willing to adopt these policies at a state level, to adopt the policies of all people, who pulled off the great COVID, then we're in trouble. And we need people to wake up and start looking not just at the policies, but the implications of these policies, and saying, we're aligning with a left agenda and we have the power to stop it. Why aren't we stopping it? Why are our legislators going along with this? And I'll talk more about some of the things that's alarming in this medical bill as we move forward in the conversation. I don't want to take, you asked me one question and I'm venturing into a lot of thoughts here.
I want to talk some more about this mental health bill. We had 3 wonderful legislators with us just very recently talking about this bill. And I'll tell you what, I was incredibly alarmed. And apparently this sailed through the Georgia House with Republican support. Talk to us a little bit about this bill and the broader significance and even just the mindset behind this kind of legislation.
Yeah, I'm going to come at it from a different perspective, being a minority here in America. One of the things that we've experienced in America is when you have government overreach, we're talking about mental health, which is very broad, right? We have to remember in the early 1900s, you had Buck versus Bell, where they just deemed someone feeble-minded, and they were able to go through, the United States and sterilize women, right? We have California that sterilized over 60,000 women just by declaring them mentally ill. So that becomes extremely alarming to us when we've seen eugenics as early as the 19th and early 20th century, where we're saying we're going to give the government power to declare whether we are mentally sound, and who is the one manding that post to say, this is within the boundaries of mental health, right? Feeble-minded. Can anyone truly give a definition of what feeble-mindedness is, right? But 60,000 women were sterilized and will never be able to reproduce again, because the Supreme Court and the government agreed that they had enough definition behind that to sterilize these women. Okay, our community was greatly devastated by that. When we look at what they do in the prison systems, so they can, if you look at the prison system, they said most of the prisoners are in prison because they had mental illness. But when you dive into what those mental illnesses are, it's depression. 80% of them are depressed. When they're in prison, they should be unhappy, and there should be some shame behind what they've done. Is that truly a mental illness, or is that something in your brain to say, I am somewhere in life that I don't need to be? So do they need to be medicated or taught how to redirect their life so they don't have the same sadness or grief going forward? But see, what we're seeing is, and let me back up. I said before, in the inner city, we saw a huge over medication of our children. And when these children turned 18, they was medicated from the time they were 6 years old, all through high school, with Class C drugs. So what happens when the government is no longer paying for that Class C drugs? They turn to illicit drugs, which are Class C drugs. And now they're calling drug abuse a mental illness. What I say is, no, the drug abuse that happened previously caused the mental illness. They didn't go to drugs because of mental illness. Statistically, I believe that the statistics will back me up on that. Most people are introduced to drugs by a friend or by a doctor. Okay, peer pressure, or your ADHD, you're in pain, over prescribing pain pills. It was not necessarily a mental illness that drove them to that. I'm not saying that it does not exist, but I am saying we must have the correct numbers to make sure that we're solving the right problem. And the government has a tendency of solving problems that don't necessarily exist, or solving problems that they created and thus create more problems. So when I see that in this bill that they're calling for more psychiatrists, not social workers, psychiatrists prescribe more medicine, okay, in the school system. That is alarming. I do not want my child going to school to be psychoanalyzed, okay? I am sending them there to learn what they're intended to learn: reading, math, and arithmetic. Let me handle the rest. But when I send my child to school and they're under being psychoanalyzed with every move that they make, that becomes extremely dangerous. And in the minority community, we've seen how they've weaponized defects over the years, or family and children's services. I think Australia has the biggest outcry of how defects was weaponized and was taking the Aboriginal people, children, away from them because they deemed them mentally unsound. They deemed them mixed race. They was unable to raise these mixed children. It's dangerous and it's scary. And we've seen precedents of where it's gone bad when the government has taken this type of overreach. And so will my Christian beliefs become a mental health issue because I'm too radical about Jesus, right? That is a concern because mental health is subjective to social norms. So if it's not normal to be a Christian anymore, will that be considered a mental health? Right?
Yeah.
So those things become alarming. And whenever we have federal funding coming in to help fund these things, that means we now have to go by the federal guidelines they put in front of us. Again, we're losing state rights. We're losing the voice of the citizens and what truly matters. And that is why I found the fathers were so, I love reading the Federalist paper. And when James Madison is discussing, when the government start becoming for the government and not for the people, and I'm paraphrasing, it's time to rise up against it. It's time for us to take a stand against it. It should never be so. And I believe that we're losing that in this moment where the government is having such an overreach that is not truly looking at the people and saying what's truly needed. What's truly needed is to get to root cause of people unhappiness, like COVID, suicide rate raged because these children was being locked down. So do we say medicate them? Or do we say socialize them, let them back out of the house, let them have friends, get them from behind these devices, right? That's isolating them, making them feel unconnected. They don't want to do that. They want to medicate them. And that is alarming.
Excellent points. I couldn't agree with you more. And we're almost out of time now.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. I'm so glad you said all that. I have one quick question on your information that was sent over to me. You say that you want to fight against the genocide of future generations.
Yes.
We've only got about a minute and 30 seconds left. Tell us what you mean.
So the genocide of future generations, since Roe versus Wade, we've murdered over 60 million babies here. We have to start taking a look. We're below the rate of replacement at this point. One, I think it's ungodly to be killing babies, first of all. But two, we need to sound the alarm that we are literally under the rate of replacement. And I'll speak from my community. We used to be the most populous in regards to childbirth after Latino. And now we are below the rate of replacement at 1.8. Italian women are also below the rate of replacement. So when we start looking at the numbers, this is a genocide that is happening, and we need to start calling it what it is. This is not choice. This is population control.
Amen.
And we need to be honest about it.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And I'm so glad you're raising these points. Carminthia, you're up against a very well-funded opponent. A lot of this stuff you're talking about with the over-medication of children, these stripping of parental rights, your opponent has raised, I guess, $1 million from the big pharmaceutical companies. Obviously, there's a strong incentive there. We're just about out of time, but before we let you go, Carminthia, how can people find you on the web? What's your website? How can people follow you on social media?
C Moore, the letter C, Moore, Moore, for Georgia.com.
cmoore4georgia.com. All right, we'll put that up on the screen. Carminthia, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for getting in the fight and standing up for what's right. We really appreciate you taking the time, and we'll keep up with you, and hopefully we will interview you again once you're in the State House. So thanks again, Carminthia.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, God bless. All right, folks, that was Carminthia Moore. She's running for State House in District 45 in Georgia, taking on one of the most powerful Republicans in the state. Big pharma money backing her opponent. So thanks for tuning in. I'm Alex Newman. This is Conversations That Matter. Until next time, God bless you all.